Let us start off the session by chanting Namo Tassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavatu Arahatu Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavatu Arahatu Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavatu Arahatu Samma Sambuddhassa. Page number 192. Guide to paragraph 6. The fine material sphere plane is 16-fold. The fine material sphere plane is a realm of rebirth for those who have developed during their life one or another of the fine material jhanas, and at the time of death still process that jhana in the sense that they have potential access to it, not having lost it owing to negligence and obsession by obstructive states. Now, when this is said, some people wonder whether a person could die whilst in or within the jhana. And we know that from previous accounts of how the Theras practice and the Arahants practice the jhana absorptions, you would always come out of a jhana before death, right? The process of death has to happen by a chutti viti, a chitta consciousness process, which is wholly to support the facilitation or to facilitate that process of death. It cannot happen without one. So even if it is for a split second of a moment, a chutti viti will continue before or will happen before the moment of death, right? Before the moment of death. Not having lost it owing to negligence and obsession with the obstructive states, this plane is divided into 4 tiers in accordance with the 4 jhanas of the Suttanta system. In the sutras, only 4 jhanas are mentioned, as this transition from the first to the second jhana takes place by the simultaneous abandoning of initial application and sustained application. Thus, the second jhana plane of existence corresponds to the second and the third jhanas of the Abhidhamma system, right? Of the Abhidhamma system. The third jhana plane to the fourth jhana, the third jhana plane to the fourth jhana, and the fourth jhana plane to the fifth jhana, right? Because of the Suttanta and the Abhidhamma sort of to bring those together, we see that then, as mentioned, the fourth jhana would draw parallels with the respective third jhana plane, and the fourth jhana plane draws parallels to the fifth jhana plane. Each of the 4 jhana planes is divided into 3 realms, except that in the 4th jhana plane, the Ras realm is subdivided into 5 abodes. The principle according to which rebirth takes place into the jhana realm is explained at para 31 below. The pure abodes, Suddhavasa, are 5 realms of rebirth open only to non-returners, noble disciples who have attained the 3rd stage of sanctity. Those who take rebirth in these abodes never return to the lower realms, but attain final deliverance there. Right? That is clear. Yeah? All right. The immaterial sphere plane. Now, just as in all divine abodes beyond the human realm, there is, and just like in the human realm as well, whilst, for example, we might talk about the abundance of Dhamma and the presence of that abundance being very accessible, we are able to learn it, we are able to discuss it, but beyond our knowledge or beyond our own sort of horizons of life, we find a different world altogether, right? And in a world where that same Dhamma that we might all use might not be very accessible to those in that world. So it is almost as if living in two or three worlds whilst living in the same human realm. In a similar way, in the divine realms, you find the same sort of structure where you find so many divine beings who are seasoned in the Dhamma, who have met with the Buddhas and Pacceka Buddhas, listened to their teachings, absorbed a lot of their teachings, who might have also, or a large number of enlightened beings who have not yet passed. And then you also have this sort of these beings who are in absolute awe of the sensual pleasures which are available to them in that specific plane of existence. And the sensual pleasures, again, just as it might be for us, acts as that distraction from the truth that other beings might be sort of a little bit more aware of, right? Aware of. So even if we are reborn into these divine planes and divine abodes, it is then our own internal desires which then truly pave the way for us to be, whether we will actually be within the Dhammic clan or we will be, or whether we will be with the clan which appreciates and is in awe of the sensual pleasures. That is all down to our intricate sort of supportive factors, and those supportive factors we can connect to the supportive karmas, right? While the main chunk of karma initiates that we are born of that sort of the highest possible means within that plane, for example, like in a human realm, being able to have all the faculties, a mind that can be sort of used with the Trihetuka Patisandhi, while the same Trihetuka Patisandhi gives rise in the divine realms, it is then the supportive karmas which adds essence into that life which has, or which is a Trihetuka Patisandhi result, right? Which is a Trihetuka Patisandhi result, which comes in as an explanation to the fact of why we just don't meditate, right? Our lives, as taught by the Buddha, has been so that we, even to the Sangha, even to the Sangha such as Sariputta, Moggallana, and of course these beings have of course finished their sort of what they have to do, but the admonition to the Sangha is to always look at not only the meditation, look at all the paramis which are spoken of, the 30 different paramis in 3 subcategories, so the 10 different paramis which are there. The paramis takes one on a process, a journey of perfection, not in a way that we should try to be perfect, but in a way that doing or enacting within these sort of strategies that one might be able to perfect the faculties of mind which enables one to go deep into the realization of Dhamma. From that aspect of perfection, we are taught the 10 perfections, and that itself tells us that meditation itself is not enough. Why isn't it enough? Because for a full facilitation, now, for example, we cannot live just with meditation. We have to feed ourselves, right? There are other sort of comfort factors that comes into this whole practice, which enables a person to actually practice, right? Which actually enables those things comes through the supportive karmas, which are dealt with in the other practices of kindness, wholesomeness, compassion, endearment, and all of those other things, other sort of practice factors that are, or the Buddha draws our attention to. So moving on, right? If anyone has a question, you are most welcome to ask, right? All right. The immaterial sphere plane, Arupavachara Bhumi. The immaterial sphere plane is fourfold, namely the realm of infinite space, the realm of infinite consciousness, the realm of nothingness, and the realm of neither perception nor non-perception. Guide to Para 7. These are the four planes of rebirth for those who, at the time of death, possess an immaterial meditative attainment. Each immaterial attainment leads to rebirth into the corresponding realm. Now, I think it is important to draw our attention to the fact that when we do possess now, a person who is with the jhana and a person when he is not within the jhana is different. The qualitative mental faculties which are in operation at the time that the person is within the jhana is different, right? However, just the mere ability of having the potential of being equipped with the potential to go into the jhana at that moment enables or seizes for that person a place to be able to be reborn in their respective realm, right? In that respective realm. The resonance of the mind then must come into question. Because why? Because it is not, okay, within, let's take the fine material realm. The fine material realm is the predominant type of consciousnesses that arises in the fine material realm are the fine material consciousnesses. We all know that now, right? The attribute of these consciousnesses is to give rise to or to help the being be within jhana. We know that as well, right? We know that as well. However, at the moment of death, the person who is a meditator does not die with the jhana. Rather, he comes out of the jhana and he dies as a person who is not with the jhana, but has a potential of the jhana. The potential or having the potential within oneself to attain the jhana is a reflection again of the kilesas, the hindrances, the faculties, the negative faculties which are within the mind, which holds the mind down. Just by bringing the mind into a level where the mind now has a true potential of entering into the jhana, enlightens a person to a certain extent where he is no longer held down by those afflictions of kilesa and the hindrances, to a level where now the mind is released not through jhana, but because of the potential of jhana and because of that reflection upon the hindrances, right? So just imagine the power of the mind and the reasons by which, and the reasons which could be sort of said to be the foundation of our life in this world, which is truly a foundation, of kilesa, ignorance, nivarana, and all of these sort of factors which keeps us sort of distracted from a higher state of mind, right? From a higher state of mind. Now, these are four planes of rebirth for those who, at the time of death, possess the immaterial meditative attainment. Each immaterial attainment leads to rebirth into the corresponding realm. Para 8. In the pure abode, no worldlings, tree mentors, or once returners are found in any way. Noble ones are not found in non-percipient realm and in the woeful planes. In other planes are found both noble ones and non-noble ones, right? Noble ones are not found in the non-percipient plane realm and the woeful plane. What is the reason noble ones are not found in the non-percipient plane? The realm? Does anyone remember the answer to that? Hello? I think all of you know. Noily? No? Hemali? No. What is the reason noble ones are not found in the non-percipient plane? Maybe we can do a khana shot. Why don't we take a wing at it? Padma, any idea?
Go. So you're talking about the Asana Sattva people, isn't it? And they don't have a consciousness as far as I can remember. Is that the reason?
True, they don't have a consciousness. However, I mean, it is a plane, and there should be a specific reason as to which keeps noble ones away from this plane, isn't it? I mean, it is a rather high plane to be in. So what would be the reason? Anyone else?
They can't achieve arahantship from there?
Correct, but not the exact answer, Mary.
Don't know.
So the reason that noble beings will not arise in the non-percipient plane is because when, now for example, if a person even without the attainment to Sotapanna stage, if one is to decide or if one is to determine to attain Nibbana, and if that determination is strong, even that person will not attain or go into the non-percipient plane, right? But remember, when we say that when the determination is strong, the determination must be backed by Sila, Samadhi, Panyas, Chaga, Sutta, and all of these wholesome factors, which then enable the person to be reborn in the position that the person wishes to be reborn in. As mentioned in the Majjhima Nikaya Sutra number 4, the wishes which come, the wish fulfilled, the sutta on the wish fulfilled, it is called, the 4th sutta, where the Buddha talks about that any being, if he determines and if he has the supportive factors, meaning dana, sila, bhavana, sutta, chaga, panya, he will be able to gain rebirth in whichever place that he so wishes to be reborn in. The reason that a attained being does not go into the non-percipient plane or the realm is because the determination is to attain nirvana. The non-percipient plane is the only plane, although it is a very high plane, it does not facilitate anything. Do you understand? It is because of the determination of the enlightened beings that they do not appear in the non-percipient plane. Okay, so the Buddha, before or after receiving initiation at the birth of Sumedha Tapasa, since has never been into the non-percipient plane. For the whole reason of first, the determination to attain was strong, the supportive factors were present, hence, every rebirth afterwards was a rebirth which tried and tested the Bodhisattva in his initiative to attain to enlightenment. Yeah, so that is the answer. Is that clear, everyone? Right? And of course, we know why wouldn't a being go to the Avicii or the Naraka or the woeful realm? That is clear because of because negative factors will not become the object of those beings to an extent of creating a patisanti, right? That is clear. Yes, Mala.
Bhante, it's true that Buddha didn't go to the non-percipient plane, but he didn't go to any of the other planes like Rupavachara or Arupavachara.
Yes, sure. He never did, because again of the determination. Because the Buddha, the Bodhisattva's life, because the Bodhisattva's life specific to Pacceka Buddhas and Buddhas, they have a strong grasp on perfections to an extent that Arahants might not, right? They have a very, very strong grasp because the focus is on the realization of the ultimate perceptions. Those, perfections. Those do not allow for rebirth in the Rupavachara and those sort of respective meditative realms as a result of the jhanas, because they take far too long to be within that.
Yeah.
So since it is not facilitative, right? But the non-percipient plane is something of rather specialty, really, because no other being, not only the Buddha, but no other being who wants to attain Nibbana will arise in that plane. You know, it is only beings who are, yes, who have the jhanas, however, who are not motivated by the wisdom of the Buddhas that really appear in those planes, right? Or beings who just want to try it out. It can be two reasons, actually. If you want to try it out, then of course you can sort of gain, because why, the aspiration has now arose. Yeah. All right, moving on. Guide to para 7. In the pure abodes, no worldling stream enterers or once returners are found in any way. Noble ones are not found in the non-percipient realm and in the woeful planes. In other planes are found both noble ones and non-noble ones. Moving on, page number 194. 4 types of rebirth linking. Yes. Para 9 overview. Rebirth linking is fourfold, namely, rebirth linking in the woeful plane, rebirth linking in the sensuous blissful plane, rebirth linking in the fine material sphere, rebirth linking in the immaterial sphere. Para 10. Therein, the unwholesome resultant investigating consciousness accompanied by equanimity, becomes the rebirth linking at the moment of descent into the woeful plane. Then it lapses into the life continuum, and finally it becomes the death and is cut off. This is one single woeful rebirth linking. Let's read that again. Therein, the unwholesome resultant investigating consciousness, accompanied by equanimity, becomes the rebirth linking. At the moment of descent into the woeful plane, then it lapses into the life continuum and finally becomes the death consciousness and is cut off. This is the one single woeful rebirth linking. Is that clear? Right? Now, just to go into that paragraph a bit, look at the consciousness. Unwholesome resultant investigating consciousness, accompanied by equanimity. If weakness was so weak, I mean, this is that weak consciousness, right? And we also know when the kusala is weak, when the omaka, when a person gains rebirth on account of a omaka kusala, he too would receive his rebirth by what? And beautiful investigating consciousness. I'm sorry, a wholesome investigating consciousness. These chittas are weak, right? These chittas are weak. When the chitta is so weak, it can be sure you will never be reborn with that much of a weak consciousness in a powerful place. You never are. You will always be reborn with in a place that is sufficient to that means that you have, right? And this consciousness is quite weak. It is omaka. I mean, look at it. Unwholesome resultant, investigating consciousness, ahetuka, right? Ahetuka. Hence, you will then be reborn in a woeful plane, but in that process, right, at the moment of descent into the woeful plane, then lapses into life continuum and finally becomes a death consciousness and is cut off. And is cut off. Almost as if picturing, let us say, if a person is just over a cliff and if he's holding on, if he's held on by a rope and that rope just snaps, just so dropping into that abyss, just so does that person drop from that high state of consciousness into that lowly state of being, right? It sort of symbolifies that going into bhavanga and then it cuts off. When it goes into the bhavanga, it has been established. You are going to fall. There is no saving from that end, right? Now, let's go on. Any questions? Please do ask. Rebirth
Yes,
linking in the
Bhante.
sensuous plane. Yes, Damsiri.
Yeah, well, now,
Damsiri, your mic is, yes.
Yes. Can you explain what's the function of object in this particular case in the last dying Chittaviti?
Sure. So
You know,
yes.
yeah.
So we know that the object instigated, the object can be at this state, especially when the mind is that low, Damsiri.
Yeah.
It is very difficult to mimic our own object. Why?
Okay.
Because the mind is already that weak. But
Right.
then we spoke about, or because at this level or state of mind, it is almost as if, I mean, think about it. Let's say we are dying with immense pain, for example, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If we are dying, let's say we are sick, we have a cancer of some sort or some other ailment or illness, and we are dying with a lot of pain, or we are in our deathbed with a lot of pain. That pain itself becomes like a prison, in a way that the mind cannot go beyond that pain or that maybe that frustration. Maybe it can be a different series of events that itself becomes a prison. So we are bouncing off one wall of the prison to the other without actually being able to come over that prison or overcome that mental prison that we have put ourselves. That is where the Buddha then goes into kamma, kamma nimitta, and gati nimitta. You know, because the kammas and the way that we have lived our life, and by kamma, not only past kamma, but also kamma that we have benevolently sort of produced in this life, the life that we have lived and walked with, that kamma itself as kamma, kamma nimitta or gati nimitta comes to be those objects that we then perceive at this sort of moment of death. You know, at that moment of death. So this question of object really could depend on the state of mind at that moment. But also remember, there are people who die without sitting on a deathbed, without ailing, who would just die, right? You know, something falls on them, a train accident, I mean, I don't know, the tsunami maybe. You know, people just, you know, they close their eyes or they've gone to sleep and they just die, right? People or in instances such as that, we would assume that they had no time to think. But remember, the mind always has an object. Even, let us say, a discomfort of some nature, right? Even that could be taken as object. It might be, for example, let's say takes the tsunami, and I'm sure people died in this way. They all, they woke up with, being suffocating in water. They're confused, they're dead almost within the minute almost. That confusion can become a very, very strong object. Right now, after the tsunami, we know in Sri Lanka, in places like Japan, there have been documentaries made on it. It's on Netflix, you can watch. We hear the same similar stories of confused beings as ghosts walking around these areas. As I was quite young, but I remember hearing the same stories from people of those areas. That birth of being a ghost had a lot to do with not knowing what happened to them, a state of confusion, right? A state of confusion. That object can be an object of power. But for those people, of course, even for people who have sudden death, kamma nimitta and gati nimitta can come in so fast. I remember when now in Abhidhamma Thero's, I think I told you this story, but let me repeat myself. His teacher died. 7 days before, he was seeing chariots and divine beings, and he was telling people about it. When Matara Shri Jnanarama Thero was dying, he knew exactly when he was going to die. In this case, people do often sort of describe seeing certain images, which then we draw parallels to kamma nimitta and gati nimitta Dhamsire. So I hope I've answered your question, Dhamsire.
It may be,
yes.
It may be the reason why it says that after the fifth javana in the last dying Chittaviti, after the fifth javana, it goes into a bhavanga and then chuti. Yeah, but normally
I think it's a reason for that, Dhamsire.
No, but that's the reason, because it's not strong.
Yes, that is the textbook definition of not strong.
Yeah.
Of course, let's say now the Javana almost has a life of its own. We know that, right? And because the Javana almost has a life of its own, because of the impulsive power created by the object and the past history we have with that object, hence the Javana has a life of its own. I wonder whether the others got that. Now we know in a Chittaviti process, a Chittaviti starts and it ends. It starts with, the Bhavanga, Bhatit, Bhavanga, all of that, and goes into the Chakku Vinyana, and then it ends by the Tadalambana. That has a life, yes. However, it gets personal at the Javanas. How does it get personal? Because that that is where you really work with the object. So if you have past experience with the object, if you have a past connection with the object, that is where in the Vishuddhimagga it talks about people who have developed vipassana in the previous in the previous lives, that what happens to them is that the moment that they see a fire, or the moment that they see wind or water, they see, they go into these sort of attainments of jhana very easily, or even vipassana. That is because of that personal connection of the jhana, which carries that data that you have practiced in the past. Yeah. So yes, of course, textbook definition of weak. Yeah. All right. Moving on. Any other questions? Yes, Noeline. Yes.
You mentioned the word omaka a few times. What does that mean?
Omaka means weak. Ukrushta omaka, right? O-M-A-K-A, omaka, and ukrushta. Or you could actually, it has three: Ukrushta, Madhyama, and Omaka. Right? Ukrushta is the most powerful. Ukrushta jhana, you might hear, is the most highest, the most powerful state of a jhana. Madhyama is that middle ground, and Omaka is weak. Right? And Omaka, we know there are words such as hina, for example. Right? Omaka gives us a sense of it gives us a deeper sense of baseless, or no ground to stand on, if I might sort of, because hina, yes, the word hina, yes, is also weak. However, omaka just personifies that weakness to a level where it almost seems as it doesn't have a proper foundation almost, so if you do sort of go into the Pali dictionary, you will see, so it has that sound. So that's omaka. Okay, thank you. Can I move on? Yes. Rebirth linking in the sensuous, blissful plane, page number 194. The wholesome resultant investigating consciousness, accompanied by equanimity, occurs as rebirth linking, life continuum, and death of deformed human beings of the sensuous, blissful plane, such as those born blind, etc., as well as of earthbound deities and of some fallen Asuras. The 8 great resultants act as a rebirth linking life continuum and death consciousness everywhere in the sensuous blissful state plane. The 9 comprise rebirth linking. The 9 comprise rebirth linking in the sensuous blissful plane. The foregoing 10 modes are reckoned as a sense sphere rebirth linking. Right? As let's read the para again. The wholesome resultant investigating consciousness. Wholesome resultant investigating consciousness. Again, investigating means omaka, right? Omaka kusala vipaka. Accompanied by equanimity, occurs as the rebirth linking life continuum and death of deformed human beings at the sensuous blissful plane, such as those born blind, as well as of some earthbound deities and of some fallen Asuras. The 8 great resultants act as the rebirth linking life continuum and death consciousness everywhere in the sensuous blissful plane. These 9 comprise rebirth linking in the sensual blissful plane, then 10 modes are reckoned as sense sphere rebirth linking. Guide to para 10:11. For a detailed explanation of the types of consciousness that perform the function of rebirth linking, life continuum, and death, such as those born blind, etc., the etc. Adi here is intended to include those born deaf, mute, mentally retarded, mentally deranged, and those born as eunuchs, hermaphrodites, and sexually indeterminate. The commentators explain that the expression born blind refers to one whose rebirth consciousness is produced by a karma that, owing to the deficiency of merit, is incapable of generating eyes with the capacity of vision. That is important. So it is not a hindering karma that hinders the growth. The karmaja rupa itself does not have the potential to deliver upon that faculty, right? So it is not an obstruction. The karma which was pivotal to the foundation of these faculties maturing properly, that foundation was weak. Yeah, understood? Any questions? Let us move on. I think we might have some questions to come. The expression does not apply to those who emerge from the, owing to the deficiency of merit, is incapable of generating eyes with the capacity for vision. The expression does not apply to those who emerge from the womb blind because of some accident or illness incurred during the stay in the womb. For blindness under such circumstances may also occur to those with a double or triple rooted rebirth consciousness. The same principle applies to those born deaf, etc. And in all such cases, the rebirth consciousness is invariably rootless, only when the defect is already inherent in the karma that generates rebirth, right? That generates rebirth. Now, with regards to the eunuchs, hermaphrodites, and sexually indeterminate, now specifically with the eunuchs, we know in Pali the word which is used is the word pandaka. There are 5 types of pandaka which is spoken of within the Pali canon, right? People might, or teachers might sometimes speak of pandaka or pandakas as referring to maybe the LGBTQ community, but it must be noted that that cannot be farther from the truth. It is not. For example, an example of a pandaka is, for example, a pakka pandaka, right? A pakka pandaka is a eunuch who becomes very sexually motivated towards the rising of the moon, right? Towards the rising of the moon. And then towards the no moon season, that same sexuality or that sexual motivation, becomes almost normal or nothing at all. The sexual influx that he experiences is so strong that it is very difficult for him to control himself, right? Now I use the word him, but I'm referring to all humanity, right? Which should be clear. So it should be understood. Now, what has the Buddha mentioned about then Pakapandakas? Can they be ordained? Yes, they can. They have to be ordained towards the new moon. So from the full moon towards the no moon, they can be ordained. But during and after this period, they have to have very strict guidance and oversight from teachers, right? In all 5 of those ways, in all 5 pandakas, these pandakas refers to then as people who experience uncontrollable sexual urges, right? Maybe because of their previous practices, I don't know, maybe because of the lives that they've lived, maybe because of the karmas that they have sort of developed through samsara. But it should be clear that it is not referring to a specific member of community. Rather, it is only referring to people who have urges that they cannot control to such a strong degree, right? All right, so let's move on. Some earthbound deities, right? Buddhist cosmology recognizes a class of deities who do not dwell in the heavenly realms, but in the proximity to earth, in remote regions such as forests, mountains, and shrines. These beings are called earth gods, Bhumma Deva, while the more powerful deities in this class may possess double or triple rooted types of rebirth consciousness, they are often accompanied by retinues which may include deities with defective merit who manage to maintain their lives with difficulty. It is these, according to Lady Seado, that are intended here as earthbound deities reborn with a rootless rebirth consciousness. So, of course, being Sri Lankan and of course having some sort of effect, some sort of influence from the Hinduism and the sort of the Deva worship, it should be noted that most of the deities that we think that we are communicating with are really Bhumma Devas, right? Within shrines, within the low, because these are the deities, or these are the lowly deities who operate within this world, right? Who have maybe some sort of interest in the humanly sort of human affairs, that they might sort of see or feel, or be representation to. So that is a point to note, that when the Patisandhi is weak, regardless of whatever plane that Patisandhi gives rise within, the only place that the Patisandhi can or does resonate with is weakness, right? Is weakness. Do not think that you are being punished by karma. No, karma is you, your karma, right? It is your generation of energy. If you, for example, take the fact of you doing something really good, really kind, really generous, and upon doing this, we condemn these acts, or we might see these acts as not so great. Thus, that the mind which created now is the same mind that destroys. The karma, or the level to which we can use the karma to become highborn or lowborn, wholly falls upon your distinctions of mind and mental operation, right? Your mind and mental operation. That is where the determination made with a pious, beautiful, wholesome mind can even give you the controlling edge of where you are reborn, right? And I think that is a beautiful distinction, and a very important distinction to know. No one is controlling you. Do not think that karma is punishing you. If there is anyone who is punishing you with low rebirths, is you. It's yourself, right? It's yourself. So, moving on. Fallen Asuras. These beings are said to dwell in villages or in the vicinity of villages, living off the remains of food discarded by the residents. They also haunt or oppress human beings when they fail to obtain food, right? Fail to obtain foods. I think this story can be drawn parallels with the Ratana Sutta. If you remember what happened to the Lechavis, right? If you remember what happened to the Lechavis. Now, 10 modes. Something else. Now, with fallen Asuras, they have a very strong attraction to waste, refuse, the smells, the putrid smells, the smell of rot. They have an attraction to these things. Because again, remember, attraction to that which is lowly is what they have, right? So by birth, their attraction is to that sort of the lowly things of what we have to offer in this sensual plane. So there is no sort of changing of these human beings. Their life inherently becomes about this waste and refuse. They would fight and quarrel over it. For decades on decades, for hundreds of thousands of years, some of these Asuras have gone on searching, just being driven by the smell of refuse, which is quite a pathetic place to be in, right? So this is a reflection, this mind is a reflection of ourselves, our most candidly, the worst that we have within ourselves, the attraction to the petty things in life, which is really not just the sensuous pleasures, but really things like hatred, envy, animosity, jealousy, you know, these are those notions which boils in within our heart, which lead to such lowly rebirths, So as a practice, remember, those that are categorized to be, for example, jealousy, envy, avarice, you know, all of these things, this is the worst of man. And when our minds are focused upon that which is the worst of man, we will get what is the worst of man. Kind of makes sense in my mind, actually. You know, because that is what, you know, some people, they're very petty. They find it very difficult to forgive. They find it very difficult to move on. They will hold something against you for a whole lifetime. That is a state which resonates with this state. That magnetic pull that we have in our minds to that which is so lowly. So much so that we choose to not even look at anything we don't even know that there is beauty. We rather prefer to live with this hate, you know. It is a true resonance. So we should not think that this has nothing to do with me. This has everything to do with us, with each and every one of us, right? These people, according to what the Buddha has said, these people who are eating and feeding off this waste, this refuse, the feces, and all that is bad and sort of putrid in the world. These are our mothers and our fathers, our siblings, our cousins, our bosses. These are people that we have had families with through samsara. These are, you know, just as the Bodhisattva Vattu speaks about how a Bodhisattva is happy upon the fact that there is no person in the world at that time of enlightenment who has not been fed by the Bodhisattva through his path of practice in the paramis, in fulfilling the paramis. If that is so, just imagine, we have been in this world longer than the Bodhisattva. Right? These people are our people, right? And we should never think that this is something that we should not know. If we have some sort of attribute which sort of does resonate with that lowly, poor qualities of human beings, then this is something which is within our horizon, and it is up to us to sort of maneuver ourselves away from that through good practice and wholesome behavior of mind and body. Moving on, the foregoing 10 modes. The 10 modes of sense sphere rebirth linking are obtained by way of the 10 types of consciousness that perform the function of rebirth linking in the sense sphere. Again, the 10 modes of sense sphere rebirth linking are obtained by way of the 10 types of consciousness that perform the function of rebirth linking in the sense sphere. Let us see what that is. There is no, so page number 196. There is no definite limit to the duration of life of beings in the woeful plane or amongst humans and fallen asuras, right? Why is this? Because now specifically if we take the human realm, remember that these realms are far more materialistic and material driven than any other realm above us, which means that the life, the quality of life, the standard of life and behavior of the time affects what or how we live in at this current moment in time, right? Remember, within the Buddhist text, we have accounts of how beings lived so far as to a lifespan, to enjoy a lifespan of up to a asankhya. And then it reduces gradually to now this sort of poor time that we have, 100 years that we have now. I think the lifespan of people within London is 100 years, if I'm not mistaken. And people outside of London is a little bit lesser, as I remember, right? So with that, the lifespan that we often enjoy during these times. Now, for example, in the Woeful plane, during the time of the Buddha, the span could be lower compared to the lifespan that they have right now. Why? A reflection of the world that is. It is always a reflection of the world that is. Why? Because our lives, our behaviors, our choices, our decisions, all of this is really deeply rooted into the material and the quality of all of that which is all around us. We are not beings who are heart-centered. We are beings who are supposed to be looking and enjoying. That is what our main thing is, which is to use these five senses and to enjoy those five senses, right? That is why the lifespans differ. Do you understand? Any question about this? Okay. Now, the lifespan of gods of the realm of the four great kings is 500 celestial years. That is, according to human reckoning, 9 million years. Wow. The lifespan of 33 gods is 4 times this amount. The lifespan of Yama gods is 4 times of the 33. 4 times that amount is the lifespan of delightful gods. 4 times that amount is the lifespan of the gods who rejoice in their creations. 4 times that amount is the lifespan of the gods who lord over the creation of others. Now, just as I mentioned or spoke about the reason or how our lifespan is affected, you can see how with every progressive plane of existence, the lifespan now increases. This is a very pathetic situation. Why? Because you see that life is enjoyed, or rather, life is lived for a longer time, the less the attraction to that which is futile and material based your life is. We experience more time to live, or the effect that these sort of hindrances would have upon these other realms is much lower, because of the effect that we have, or the effect that the materials and these changing materials has upon the life that we have. Yeah, is it understood? Okay.
Bhante, can you explain that, please?
Yes. What I mean by that is, now we know the Kama Vachara Bhumi, the Rupa Vachara Bhumi, and the Arupa Vachara Bhumi. The Kama Vachara Bhumi, and being within the Kama Vachara Bhumi, we spoke about how the Kama Vachara Bhumi and the beings within the Kama Vachara Bhumi are affected by the hindrances connected to the changes of the world and all of that. Right, and how the amount of people who are suffering in hell and the amount of people in the divine realms and all of these things are really affected by the time in which we live in. That is why our lifespan has reduced, and is now in the present moment in fast reduction. It's really going down. We are becoming very unhealthy, we are becoming very sickly, very poorly. This is a reflection upon the attachment, the attraction, and the connectedness that we have to materials, to changing materials in our life. When we prosper, or we go through the hierarchy or the 31 planes of existence, the higher planes of existence are less affected by this change because their lives are more inwardly than our lives, which are outwardly. You know, that is what I mean. You know, so you see a sense of, you know, we multiply, I mean, these are huge numbers, 9 million multiplied by 4, and that these are huge amounts of time to live in. And for beings to be able to live, that has a connection with the inward connection than anything else.
Thank you, Bhante.
You know, yes. All right, so moving on. Guide to para 12. There is the 4 planes, there is no definite limit. In the 4 planes of woeful, of woe, in the 4 planes of woe, the lifespan is highly variable, depending on the potency of evil karma that produces rebirth there. Thus, in the hell, some undergo torment only for a few days and then pass on to rebirth elsewhere, while others might endure torment for millions of years. In the human realm too, the lifespan can vary from minutes to over 100 years. Further, according to Buddhist cosmology, the average span of human life also varies over time, ranging between a minimum of 10 years and a maximum of many thousand years. Celestial years. The Vibhanga states that one celestial day in the Chaturmaharajika heaven equals 50 human years. 30 such days amount to a celestial month. 12 such months constitute one celestial year. In the Tavantinsa heaven, one celestial day equals to 100 human years. In the Yama heaven, 200 human years, and so on, doubling in each higher heaven. On this basis, the lifespan in the 6 heavenly worlds would be computed as in the following table, right? As in the following table, which gives us a grasp of the lifespans in these worlds. Chaturmaharajika isn't a very sort of high heaven. Whilst being so, if 100 human years is equivalent to just one Chaturmaharajika day, you could see the sort of the frailty of human life and change composed within this human life that we undergo, right? That we undergo. What is the probability of us being reborn in these planes? If you are really not interested or thinking about it, there is a very high possibility that you will not go here. That you will not go here, right? Now, this is not to sort of, demotivate you or anything like that. But this is really because for a person to appear within these planes without a respective attainment, which is taking away everything which is meditative attainment based, like the fine material and the immaterial, take away all of that. Just focus on the sensuous sense sphere. This comes with a lot of inward motivation. If the attraction, now let us say, on a day-to-day basis, if your main focus of mind is to correct this thing in the house, correct that thing in the house, these are not bad things, these are human things. The news, what is going on in this world, who is doing fracking there, what's happening with coronavirus, what's happening with the international fisheries, whatever it is. If the mental engagement that we have with the world is all that is in our world, there is a very high possibility and chance that you will not, you might appear, due to the merit that you do, you might appear as wealthier people in your next birth, born to sort of high family, all of that, However, if it is to go beyond, that process of going beyond comes through a certain amount of disenchantment from this world. Right? You can take all the stories of people who have sort of passed away and the Buddha claims to have reborn in those worlds. Remember, these people and the accounts of these people's lives come with sheer beautiful motivation for the beautiful deeds of compassion that they have done, beautiful deeds of selflessness that they have done, beautiful deeds of their sort of parts and motivations that have arisen from their parts. If our motivations are wholly to do with this world that we live in, this putrid world that we live in, then we are going to be reborn in the same circumstances, not because of anyone else, because that is what our enchantment is. That is what our minds think about. That is what our minds think about. It is somewhat like, for example, let us say, for me, if this breaks, if I put it down, it's glass, if it breaks, I might, just throw it into the recycling bin, as many of you would do the same as well, right? Another person who might, have a little bit more skill and sort of is good at handiwork or whatnot, might think, oh, maybe I can turn this into an ornament, or maybe I could sort of glue it back together, or, something like that. You see, some people have the ability to take that one step further. Not because we are unable to do it, we can do it ourselves if we did a bit of research, if we have the materials at home, all of that. However, the mind does not really go to that level, isn't it? Oh, this is just a spaghetti bottle, just throw it away, let's get another spaghetti bottle, that's it. That's it. The mind is then closed on to the fact of that, that level of comfort. Whereas another person, it's like, even, some don't like to throw away anything. They keep on repairing, and it's quite interesting to see how many different ways they figure out to repair something. which can be repaired over years and years and years, so, and be reused again, which sometimes it's amazing and great, because you don't end up sort of, promoting to the environmental issue that we currently have. However, most of us, including myself, will not be thinking about remaking it, just buy another one, just replace it with a new one, opportunity to buy a new one, right? See, it's not that we are weak, or it's not that we are, it's nothing to do with weakness. It's the fact of how our mind works, right? It's the fact that how our minds work. We cannot say that the people who would buy a new thing, let's say a toaster, when the old toaster break, we can't say that they're lazy, right? You can't say that they're lazy. But yes, some might have the ability to research and then make the justified sort of repairs. But that is the way that their mind works, and this is the way that our mind works. And that is the same way that our karmas or our patterns of thinking are going to keep us within this frame of, or within this sort of network of human interaction. Because this network is both a representation of you and your pattern of behavior. We belong into this as a node, we belong in that network, and that network can only facilitate this behavior. But what if we want to switch a network then? The only way to sort of switch into that network is to not be now, or to grow above this network that you are currently based or a node of, N-O-D-E, node of. And that happens by the changing of, little changes made into your patterns of thinking, little changes made in favor of disenchantment to the different things that go on in this world. This does not mean, turning the other side, turning your eyes over from everything of this world. This is to mean that we are aware. That is where the meditation comes in, right? That we are not taken, that we do not sort of overwhelm our lives with everything that is sort of, in this world, that we know that there is a place of higher existence, that we know that there are states of higher states of mind, that there is life beyond your grandmother's 60-year-old, cock reset. Which might be quite good, actually. Yes, Susan.
So, Bhante, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is what you said. So, if we are less concerned about worldly gains or worldly issue, there are more chances of us getting to the next realm of the Chatumaharajika.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that correct?
The word I would use is not concern, right? Because concern, just by, if we use the word concern, what does the word concern mean? It is such a, etatna, metatna. It's not there or here, we have to use a better word. It's not concern, because you can be concerned, or you can show concern of something, or else you can even be concerned but not very engaging, right? Concern is not the proper word here. That is why I use the word disenchantment, where it is, I can't, or no one can tell you, okay, there are so many things in the supermarket, so don't go to the supermarket because that is going to promote sensual craving, so do your shopping online. But then when you go online, it is even more right? And it's so convenient. You order something from somewhere, and then you can try everything on, and then you can return what you don't like. So at home shopping is not much more convenient. No, it is not like that. It is really, that is why I would really like to continue using the word disenchantment. Because, when you're enchanted, what is that feeling of being enchanted? You forget everything else, right? That is that feel of being enchanted. It takes over your life and world. Disenchantment is, yes, we can walk on earth, but we can walk disenchanted by the earth.
Less obsessed.
Sorry?
Not so obsessed over things.
Not
and walk
the word I would use again.
path.
Not because obsession is a sickness. And there are levels below obsession which would also sort of fall into this category. So again, Susan, that is also not the word I would use.
Disenchant, only disenchant, and walk
Not
the middle
only
path.
disenchantment, not only disenchantment, but I feel like disenchantment has a very because it is important to know, you can't, because with words such as, for example, obsessed, or these words, you can say it, but you can mean something else. It truly needs to go down to the fact that this, you must remember, this is all wisdom based, not knowledge based, right? The disenchantment that comes has to come from wisdom, not knowledge, right? That is why I use it, because with anything which expresses the fact that you are aware and awake to the reality of the world, right?
Yes, thank you. I will meditate on this enchantment senses during during meditation, and try to feel or see what it is.
Sure.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Sure, Susan. Yes, Lucky.
Bhante, is it possible to give an example of this disenchantment that you mentioned about the world? I mean, how do we go about it, please?
Okay, I mean, enchantment. Okay. What is your favorite meal, Lucky? What do you like to eat?
Well, I like vade or that sort of thing, vade and
I'm exposing you because no. So just imagine, right? Let's say, okay, let's say cricket season. I hope you're a cricket fan, Lucky. Are you a cricket fan? Not really.
yeah, yes, Bhante, yes.
Yeah. So, you see this. I personally never understood it. I never understood the meaning of hitting a ball and, staying, not getting sleep on regard of hitting a ball, but you find people who are quite engrossed in it, don't you?
Yeah.
Told by a nurse that about 30, 40 years ago, when our team was actually good, the Sri Lankan team was actually good, people would often have heart attacks and they would die. A lot of people would die when we lost a match because they just couldn't believe it. Right. And she was telling me about, she was at Leboville and telling me she was the head matron at the time, but she was telling me of how, the cricket sort of, when people feel that there would be so many patients coming in with heart attacks and all of that. That is enchantment, where you forget everything else. Where, every time that some sort of deep Dhamma is, that we learn something, and it really fits into the puzzle almost. And there is this feel inside which keeps you from truly embracing that fact. That is enchantment, right? Enchantment is like prapancha. Enchantment keeps on working at you. You just love it. It's like sugar. It's so good. At least it tastes so good. But it's not good for anyone. It's not good for anything. In that sense of disenchantment, maybe more an example towards a practice, maybe. Okay, we spoke about this sort of riveting sort of struggle that we have in wanting to control, the need to control during meditation, right? The need to control during a meditation, or having a good experience and trying to apply that same good experience to every future meditation that we have or every future sitting that we have. Vedana has arose, enchantment upon that Vedana, so much so that we assume that this should be the Vedana which repeats in future sessions as well. That is enchantment. But we start meditation knowing or having a certain degree of understanding of the fact that all aggregates are impermanent. But because when that Vedana arises, we forget that fact and we try to have a repetitive experience of that Vedana in present and future sessions. That is enchantment. And to sort of cut it from, snip it in the bud, you can't do it with knowledge. You have to do it with that insight-based moving, that samvega that arises to the fact of that specific reality. Is that clear, Lucky?
Yes, Bhante, yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Bhante, can I say
Yes,
something?
dear.
Yeah, Bhante, in the Ananta Lakkana Sutta, Bhante, those the last bit is exactly what you explained, because there they say this the word for this disenchantment is nibbitanti, and it says that those five aggregates. When you say that whatever consciousness that there is past or present, that, like how you said, how you get attached to the meditation,
or with the right wisdom, you have to say that you have to reflect and say that this is not mine, I'm not this, and this is not myself, because you realize the impermanence of it all. And seeing it in this way, it says that the monk becomes disenchanted with all those aggregates, with the form, become disenchanted with the feeling, exactly as you said, become disenchanted with perception and all those things, and with consciousness, and therefore becoming distant, then the passions then they fade away from Nibitante, then they fade away, and after that they will get liberated with it. So that's exactly the way you explained, Bhante, is the last of the sentence, and that's how all the monks became arahants, not monks, all those 5 ascetics, because exactly because of the disenchantment with the 5 grades, by reflecting that of the impermanence and the suffering, and this is not mine, I'm not this, and this is not myself, Bhante. So thank you for that.
Sure. I mean, the the word enchantment has a sense of mystery in it, right? It has a sense of mystery. And I think using the word enchantment here with that sense of mystery is even more relevant, because we really don't know what we do sometimes. We really are not aware of that which blinds us or distracts us. We don't know. It almost happens automatically. I don't know why I'm getting so mad at something. I don't know why I'm so frustrated. I'm just frustrated. Right? That sense of enchantment, that is in its in its exact nature. You don't know. It almost comes, it just slithers into your mind in a way that, it's like a masquerading factor almost. You don't know what the root of it was. And because you don't know, that is why that insight provokes that understanding into what has created that sense of enchantment, and helps you to disenchant yourself from that. Because remember, disenchantment or enchantment, they sound like really lovely romantic words, really. Oh, disenchantment, how romantic is that word? but but in that love affair, only one person loses, you. So there is no winning with it. There is no winning with it, because you don't know what hit you. Right? You don't know what hit you, because it works in such a mysterious way, because that enchantment exactly arises in a person who is not aware. Who is not aware. Okay, so Damsiri, your mic is on mute. Do you want to say something? No. Okay. All right.
I'll use the opportunity. If you read
Your
the
mic,
table-
Damsiri.
yeah.
If you read the table 5.2, there's the lifespan of Paranimita, last one. Yeah, it's 9 billion years.
Yes, 9 billion.
Do you know that the solar system, the lifespan is also 9 billion years?
Oh, okay.
The scientists actually, they discovered that solar system can exist 9 billion years.
Okay.
That's such a coincidence.
Such a
Yeah,
coincidence.
yeah.
Yes.
And so that's actually the sensual or sensual world. Yeah. So there's some.
Damsiri, thank
There's
you
some.
for write that down.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Damsiri. Yes.
So this disenchantment, which is libintati, that's the thing that leads, then the passions fade away, what you say, viraga, and that leads to liberation. That's the kind of way that it finally leads to vimukti. Am I right, Bhante?
Viraga, Vosagga, all of that falls into that same thing.
Thank you, Bhante.
And But when we talk about the word nibhindati refers to, such a vast scope. But within the Samanapala Sutta, it refers to the scope of enlightenment, which is a rather very powerful high state of enlightenment. Something that we could practically all do is when something appears in our life and when this thing seems very interesting, something that you're very happy with, it is to always sort of question the reality, not in a way that you are cynical, that not in a way that you are sort of doubtful, but in a way of relating the impermanence, the suffering, and the non-self attribute to that something, to that something, which gives a person more practicality in terms of bringing the disenchantment practice. I mean, it is literally the anicca dukkha anatma sanya, right? But disenchantment refers to a package as a whole, because it is that reduction of passion from, that when we say reduction of passion, that sounds a bit wrong, but that process of disenchantment, or the removal of that enchantment over groundless or baseless mentalities, right? Over groundless and baseless mentalities. When we shed a little bit of awareness onto that fact, we realize more, we gain more understanding of what the reality of that situation is. Yeah. All right, wonderful. It is 8:30. We will continue next week, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you very much. Take care and have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you.
Bhante.
Bye.